All right, everybody. Apologies for being a little bit late getting started today. We've had some stuff we've had to take a look at. So I'm going to close out some of this stuff so that we can make sure our connection is good. Close, 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 close. Doing some fun stuff today with jQuery and JavaScript. It's exciting. Okay. So let's talk today. I wanted to welcome everybody. Today is June what's today? The 13th, Friday the 13th. Ooh. I wanted to welcome everybody, and hang on, let me turn the sound off on this phone. Okay, perfect. And we'll get started today. So today we got some cool stuff to talk about. There are a couple of updates we want to share with you, and then there's some cool stuff we have in the pipeline that's going to be coming out here pretty soon, and so I wanted to make you all aware of that. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Let me flip over to my screen here, and we'll show you. Oh, we got Todd on. Perfect. Todd, you're muted, and I can't see your video, and that's on purpose for now. You can ask questions later. Okay, so let me turn on my screen, and let's go through my little intro dealio here, and then we will get started. Okay, so today's jam session is brought to you by Uline. We'll talk about that in just a second. If you don't know what that is, I didn't either until yesterday, so that's how excited I am about it. If you do know what it is, then you know that I'm totally joking. As always, like I've said before, you can go ahead and tweet me your questions to my Twitter account. If you do not know who I am, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Brett Marno. I'm the guy on the right here. This is me here, not the girl in the middle. That would be my wife. I spent a lot of time. I worked at Infusionsoft for quite a good period of time. I worked as an ICC for a longer period of time. I worked at 6 Division for a couple of years, and now brought my expertise and awesomeness to PlusThis. They really were in need of help, and so I graced them with my presence. It's kind of how it works out. No, I work with a great team. I'm really excited to be working with PlusThis, and it's a lot of fun. Let's talk about what we're gonna go over today. I wanted a couple of things. There's a couple of things I wanted to go over. First of all, let's talk about Uline. Uline, it's totally a joke. Uline is just it's a shipping supply company. I got one of these catalogs in the mail. I want to buy like everything in this catalog just because they sent it to me, which probably says something about the marketing prowess of catalogs. Just send out a catalog and people want to buy stuff from you just because it's a catalog. I mean, why not? But anyway, I'll show you the catalog in a second when I turn my camera. In fact, you know what? There are no rules. I'm just going to show you right now. So here it is. This is my, I guess it's backwards for you guys. It might be backwards for you guys. I don't actually know. But just got this catalog. It's got all sorts of stuff in it. Carts. You want a cart? I got the hookups. If you want a cart with a ladder on the side, check this out. That's a ladder cart. Okay, anyway. It has nothing to do with what we need to talk about today. So let me flip back my screen. And we'll keep moving. So anyway, that's all we have from that. If you are new to the jam sessions, you probably do not know I speak Russian, and so I like to throw some Russian words in here and again. The other day, I couldn't think of the word boundaries in English. All I could think of was ramki, which is how you say it in Russian, and it made the conversation very awkward because I couldn't communicate what I was trying to say. I was like, in my head, all I could think was ramki. And I tried to say that, and it didn't come out. Anyway, about 5 minutes later, I realized what the word was, but it was too late. I had lost the argument, which, if you know me, is a big deal. I don't like to lose arguments. So there's actually not that much housekeeping today, although I did want to point out that next week, the jam session is going to be coming at you from not my office here in San Diego, but I'm going to be in Utah. So hopefully I can find a good spot to do it from. In fact, I might even be able to do it from the home of some highly prominent Infusionsoft people. There's a chance that I might even be over at Scott Martineau's house or somebody else's house that I can do the jam session from there. But we will be having a jam session next week. The following week, which I believe is the 25th or something. Hang on, let me look at my calendar. The following Friday, so a week after next week, we will not be having a jam session. Okay, so we have one next week, but not the following week, which is the 27th. I apologize. I'm going to be in Utah again. I'll be at Zion's with some family, and will not be holding the jam session that day. Okay, so let's talk about what we want to talk about today. There's some cool enhancements that we have done or are finishing up now. They're not quite live yet, but they will be soon for the SMS messaging. I just want to mention a couple of them briefly, and just tease a little bit of what's coming down the pipeline. And then I had a question this week about how to use +this to calculate revenue from a campaign and to get that reporting information back. And so I wanted to show you a couple of different ways that you could do that using Infusionsoft and +this to pull some of that stuff back. Okay, so let's go and make it happen here. Where is my thing here? Man, see, part of the thing is I'm looking at the screen that I'm showing you, and so my mouse will flick around on that screen, and then I think that my mouse is there, but it's actually on my other. I have like 4 screens set up. Anyway, okay. So let's go. Oh, I didn't need to do that. Let's do some chatting inside +this. Let me open it up here. Turn my screen on. Let's go to full screen 2. Nope, full screen 1. All right, let's do it this way. Actually, you know what? When we talk about the +this enhancements, I wonder if, well, maybe I can get Todd to chime in on that. Todd, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to you. I'm going to just unmute you, and if I am about to say something or I say something that's false, then just chime in. Okay, so I've unmuted you. So just keep me honest here. All right. Okay. Okay. So with the SMS feature, some things that are coming down the pipeline here pretty quick. One thing that we're really excited about is that we're going to release the ability for people in the UK to use the SMS feature, which is one that that people have wanted for quite some time. I don't know why I'm going here. It's not like there's anything new that's going on here. Let me come back to myself. It's not like there's anything new in this feature that you're going to be able to see. We haven't quite pushed it out yet. But that's the first thing. And then also we're allowing you to have messages that are like if somebody responds to one of the messages you send. Right now they just sort of go into the ether black hole of nothingness. But if we're going to be launching the ability for you to have those messages forwarded to you so you can actually respond to them. So that's going to be pretty cool. Did I miss anything, Todd, or have I misspoken at all? Are you shy, Todd? Maybe you're not even really listening. That's fine. Okay. We're going to take that as a yes, that everything's fine, that I haven't misspoken or misled anybody in that sense. So let's go ahead. I want to talk to you for a second about how to calculate the revenue that's come from a particular campaign, and it just involves a couple of things. There's actually several ways you could do this and not even necessarily need to use +this at all, but +this can help to make the reporting on it a little bit easier. So I'll show you a couple of ways to do that. So first of all, let's jump into our little Infusionsoft here. First thing that we need to make sure that we're doing is we have to indicate, say we're running a particular promotion and we want to know from the top to the bottom of that particular promotion how much money we've gained, or how many sales we've done, or the dollar total or whatever. First thing we're going to need to make sure that we do is indicate to Infusionsoft who the people are that are in that campaign. Most people are doing this, right? They'll apply a tag when someone enters a campaign or fills out a form or whatever. But you'll just need to make sure in the campaign that tag is being applied so that you know who they are. Okay. Then there's a couple of different ways you can go about getting the data out of +this, or using +this to get the data out of Infusionsoft. The first is if you're using the e-commerce module in Infusionsoft. The first is once that tag's been applied, just go into +this, and you'll create a how much has this person spent feature. So you go to Feature Library into the Implementers Toolkit. You'll go down to how much has this person's bought or spent, right? And then you're going to calculate it based on. Actually, it doesn't really matter the time period. You can just do all time, and then you're going to put that number into a particular field. So we'll just use the test field here, and then you can choose to exclude particular purchases if you want, like this. We'll just check both of these just for the heck of it, and then we'll say count spend. All right. Now what we can do is, because we've tagged everybody that's come into that campaign or that's been a part of that campaign, we can now go through and check and run this feature on everybody that was in that campaign and pull the amount that they've spent into this particular field. Now, one of the things about this, when you use the all time on this, when you set the parameters to be all time, is if someone purchased before this campaign and then enters, and then they get move through the campaign that way, then it will include those other purchases from before. So maybe it makes more sense for you to put in a custom date range and say, look, I started the campaign, let's say on March 1st, and I'm running it until like today. Right, so March 1st until today. And we want to say, we want to calculate the amount that someone's purchased, like in that date range. It's still not going to be totally particular because someone could purchase from some other thing, but the fact is they entered this campaign and then they purchased, and so we're going to count the revenue as part of this campaign. So that's so again, step 1, tag all the people in the campaign. Step 2 is going to be to create this feature that's going to calculate the revenue and put it into a field. Then what we're going to do is use the updater, and we're going to go run that feature just on the people that have the tag that's applied for that particular campaign. Okay, so we go to the updater, and then if you are using multiple accounts, if you're on our unlimited program and you have multiple Infusionsoft accounts, you'll pick that one, and then you'll say, okay, count spend, and we want to run it only on people that are tagged with, let's say I'm using the attended webinar tag or whatever, it doesn't really matter. So that'll give you how long it's going to run. Then you hit run. So now what you have is the data, how much a person has spent as part of this campaign on the contact record. And so now we can go back into Infusionsoft and we can create saved searches that will include that field, which we can then add up in a dashboard stat on our dashboard. So we'll create a saved search. We'll make sure to include the column that includes that data. And then on our dashboard, we'll just create a saved search, which will be actually won't be created as a saved search. It's going to be added as a custom stat. So we go to Add Widgets, and we go to Custom Statistics. And then instead of using a count in here, what we're going to do is we'll select the search, and we'll change this to a sum. And then we'll select the search, and then we'll select that column, whichever one it is that has that data in it, and it will add up how much has been spent on this particular campaign. So that's the first way you can do it. The second way you can do it, one way you can do it just using straight up an Infusionsoft without even having to go anywhere at all, is you can go just do an order search for all the people who spent money that also had that tag, right? So you can just look for the tag here. One of the things here is that this type of reporting it's just reporting, which means you wouldn't be able to use it in any of your marketing or your segmentation or anything like that. So like if you wanted to send particular promotions just to the people that spent more than $10 during this particular campaign, then you wouldn't be able to do that just using straight up an Infusionsoft. However, if you use that feature in conjunction with the tag, then it will allow you to pull that information back. Now, one thing I will point out is it is important that you're tagging the people that are entering that campaign, because only the people that enter that campaign need to be have that feature run on them, because you could get other data. So say somebody else buys something from you in that date range, but not as part of this campaign, you don't want that amount of money to be pulled into the reporting. You just want the reporting from that particular campaign. Okay, so that's essentially how that's gonna work. You'll use a tag to indicate who's in the campaign, and then you'll use a how much has this person bought feature to count up how much money you basically have made from that particular campaign. Okay. There actually is one more thing. I was on a call with a couple of people this morning, a setup call with a couple of people, and I wanted to kind of take you through what this guy's doing, because it's pretty cool. He had this setup. There were a couple of them, but one of the guys had this setup where he was calculating a discount, right? So he does. Well, I'll set the stage here. He does. He like farms out DJs essentially. He's like a DJ referral partner business. I don't know exactly how to say it. Essentially, people come to him to get a DJ for their event, and so he then sends a DJ out to them. So it may be that he employs the DJs himself, or maybe he just has relationships with them. That's really neither here nor there. And so what he wanted to do was, what I should say is certain days of the week in certain months have different discounts. So based on like when exactly the event is going to be that they want the DJ for, they may have a particular discount. So they have like a $1,200 flat base fee, and then if it's like a Saturday in February, then they get a $300 discount. And if it's a Thursday in March, then they get a $200 discount. Okay. So what he's doing, what we talked about today, and what we figured out for him to do was to use the Humanize Infusionsoft dates field or feature, and once the person selected their date, he would humanize that date, and he would make sure to include the day. So now we have Friday and June in the field. Now in Infusionsoft, in a campaign, I apologize if I'm going too fast. I'm just kind of excited about this because it's pretty cool. In a campaign, you have the ability in a decision diamond to make decisions on which sequence to put somebody into based on what's contained in a particular custom field. So let's go into this campaign here, and I'll show you kind of what I mean. Okay, so let's say we have two sequences here. Let's say if it's a Thursday in June, then or a Friday in June, then we want to give them a 20% discount, and if it's a Wednesday in April, we want to give them a 30% discount, or $30 off or whatever. Otherwise, it's just a flat fee. Okay, so we have three sequences here. So this would be regular flat fee. This one will be Thursday in June, and this one will be Friday in February. Okay, so these are basically this is the different pricing options. They're either going to be $1,200, we'll say $1,000 to round it off, $1,000, or it's going to be $100 off if it's a Thursday in June, or $200 off if it's a Friday in February. Okay, so the first thing we do is we set up the $200 off subtraction feature. So we'll use subtraction, and we'll subtract $200 from the price. We could also actually just set the field to whatever. $200 off is $800, or $100 off is $900. But this guy actually was doing other calculations using another system, and so he just set up a bunch of custom fields, and then at the end he used a subtraction feature to just basically take $1,200 and subtract all the other fields from it. So like he would set, well, this is the discount amount from this category, and this is a discount amount from another category, and then at the end he would use a subtraction feature and just take the $1,200 and then subtract this field, and then subtract this field, and then subtract this field. Okay, so let me go show you what that would look like. So he goes to addition and subtraction, and he'll basically take the $1,200, and then he subtracts field 1, and then he subtracts field 2, whatever it is, all the way down. Okay, and that's the feature that he runs in each one of these. So you could do that a couple of different ways. It's really, that part of it is you can use Infusionsoft to set those fields and then just run one feature in plus this instead of running 12. It's kind of up to you. So back to what I was kind of talking about before. So we take the date that they put in on the form, they select a date, and then we humanize that date, and now we need to check. Okay, we need to see regular flat fee is everybody that's not according to these rules. A Thursday in June, what we need to do is pick up that field, the field that has the humanized date in it, and we need to say select the contacts. Let's say, I think I have one of them in here. It's a text field. Majors, okay? And let's say contains. So if it contains Friday and it contains June, because it would have to contain both of those, if it contains Friday and June, we're going to go through this whole thing. Right? Then we want to give him the Thursday in June, or sorry, that should be Thursday. Well, you get the point. Thursday in June, I want to do it this way. You could also add other criteria, so it could be like Thursdays in June and Fridays in February, meaning you do any time it's a Thursday in June, or if it contains, Friday and February, or Monday and January, whatever it is. Okay, and then you can create all the different rules for the different sequences and then drop them in that way. So that's just one way. That's kind of a cool way to use that particular feature, not for its default use. Usually we use that feature, the Humanize Infusionsoft dates, for sending out emails. But in this sense, it helps us to know, okay, this is happening on a Friday, which means we can use that in our calculations and doing things that way. So, so that was another pretty cool thing that I noticed was happening. And then one other thing that I wanted to point out, I want to start doing some more. What do you call it? highlighting features. So what I want to do now is take you through the Smart Links feature, and then I want to flip over and see if there's any questions that we can get answered. Looks like none have been submitted as of yet. But if there are any questions, then just you can type them into the question box, and we'll get them answered here. So I'm going to go through this, kind of talk about what you can do with Smart Links, and then we'll kind of call it a day. So I really like the Smart Links feature. It's one of my favorites. And the reason why it's one of my favorites is that it allows us to basically duplicate the decision diamond functionality from inside a campaign. So this whole idea here, what we can do with sequences, we do that. It's that exact same thing, but with pages. So if I click a link or fill out a form, I can now do the same thing I can do with this decision diamond, essentially, with actually a couple of enhancements, with the thank you page that they see, which means you no longer have to have just a bland generic thank you page and then let the content be what handles the segmentation. Now we can have the form actually split them out immediately so they see a page which matches the content that they're going to be getting. Okay? So essentially the way we're going to do that is we'll pick, do we want to split them out based on field values or tags, which again is the same thing that happens inside here in the decision diamond. And then we'll just decide, okay, we want to send them to this particular address if they have this particular tag. And then if they don't have that, then let's check. Okay, maybe for this next one, maybe for address 2 that we want to send them to, we'll check and see, does this field equal, whatever this is as they go through. Okay. So essentially what happens here is we decide where are we going to send them based on the information that happens. Now, one thing I do want to point out, because this is kind of important, is the priority here. Okay. So unlike a decision diamond in Infusionsoft, which will run the check on all of the sequences, meaning anytime a goal is achieved and you have a decision diamond, Infusionsoft will check and it will put the person into every sequence where it matches the criteria. Meaning, this sequence will always run no matter what else happens. If these criteria are met, this sequence will also run. And then whatever criteria are on this third sequence, if those criteria are met, then so possibly you could put somebody into all 3 sequences here. Well, you can't actually send somebody to all 3 pages. Okay. So the reason why we have the priority here is so that you can choose once the priority is met, once those criteria are met, we want to actually send it to that particular page, which means once one of these is met, it's going to stop checking the rest of them. So you have to make sure you order these correctly, so that based on what they're choosing, they're getting sent to the right thank you page. Okay. Now, one last thing that I wanted to point out, it's actually something I'm getting a lot of questions on. The GoToWebinar integration, for those of you that are using it, I wanted to just point out a couple of things that have been tripping some people up. The first thing to keep in mind is when apparently my GoToWebinar account isn't accessed by this account, which is fine. I'll just talk through it. I don't actually need to show you this. I need to go to GoToWebinar for this. A couple of things. First of all, in the campaign, when you're registering people for webinars, you need to make sure that you add a delay timer after the registration action and before the email, because we can't really guarantee, because of the way Infusionsoft processes all the things inside of a sequence, we can't guarantee that PlusThis will have enough time to put the join link into the custom field before Infusionsoft sends out the email. Just again, because of the way that Infusionsoft processes things. And so it makes the most sense to delay the sending of that actual link until PlusThis has had enough time. And it usually only takes a couple of seconds. It doesn't take that long, but a couple of seconds is all the time that Infusionsoft needs just to send that stuff out. And so what you'll want to do is, let me just open up one of these sequences and kind of show you. I'm going to kind of hijack one that I've done before. Okay, so let's say, forget about all this stuff over here. Let's say that this is a registration form for a webinar. Inside this sequence here, what we want to do is we'll run the feature, and then we're going to put a delay timer for 15 minutes, because that's the shortest we can do. And then we'll send out the email that has that link in it the first time. Honestly, what I tend to do also, instead of, this is one way you can do it, I also just don't send the link until like a couple of days before, because they don't need it. Nobody needs the link 3 weeks before the webinar, right? Unless the webinar is like the next day, It could be the next day, then that makes a difference. But most of the time, it's not even that crucial that you put the link in here. Okay, one more thing that I want to show you on the GoToWebinar side, and then we're going to call it a day, unless people have questions, is inside GoToWebinar. I'm going to jump in here. I just hope I remember my login info. Oh no. It's a little bit embarrassing. Hang on a sec. Oh, that's why. It's because that's not the account I need to be getting into anyway. My apologies. Did not log into the right thing. Okay, bear with me for a second while I correct my mistake. I got it in my GoToMeeting account, not my GoToWebinar account. While I'm doing this, there is one question that I think that most of you can see. Tim Marie's asking any possibility on adding other webinar platforms, and this actually is a good question that Todd could answer for us if he was available and paying attention, which I don't think he is. Basically, what we've done to date so far on this stuff is, and we'll just let this sit for a second. What we've done so far on this is we've built for what most people want, what most people are actually using, and what happens is GoToWebinar still has a massive market share in the webinar system, and I would imagine, Todd can probably speak more to this, but I would imagine that part of the thing too is that GoToWebinar has an API that we can actually tie into, and so I think that may have something to do with it. But I think the biggest thing is that we haven't had enough massive demand for any of the other systems yet, and so we haven't really. That's part of the reason why we haven't really developed for anything else yet. Now, if we were to get a significant amount of requests for a different platform or a different system that we can use with this, that could influence us into building for another system. But as of right now, GoToWebinar is still kind of the gold standard in terms of webinars. I know there's a lot of people out there that love to hate on GoToWebinar. Personally, I've found that there's no. Well, if you need to register people for the webinar, meaning you need to restrict access to the webinar, I have not found a system that works better than GoToWebinar and that's more consistent than GoToWebinar. So anyway, what I wanted to show you here was there's this one little piece when you're setting up your webinars that you need to make sure you have configured correctly, and that is under registration. A lot of times, people when we used to set up webinars and use the GoToWebinar registration forms, we would collect a lot of different information so we could know who these people were. Well, because we're using Infusionsoft to do the registering and plus this, we don't actually need that information to come from here. So plus this is configured to not send any information except for first name, last name, and email from Infusionsoft, which means that if you have anything else checked, either as being as needed or as required, it will fail to register them for the webinar because it's not sending that information over. So what I mean by that is when you set up your webinars, the registration section should look like this. It should be cleared except for first name, last name, and email, and that'll resolve a lot of issues a lot of times with the different webinars that you're doing. I bring that up mostly just because I've dealt with a lot of support cases where that has been the issue, where it's just okay, we don't have it set up this way, and I'll go look, and that tends to be what's happening. So. Okay, well, we don't have any other questions that have come up. I don't see anybody. Let's see if there's anything in the chat from Todd. Nope. Let me come down here. It looks like, yeah, I think we're pretty much good for today in terms of what we've got going on. So I wanted to thank those that did come. Thanks to Todd for sitting in and being my chaperone today. Next time, I think I'm gonna have to get you on and make you talk. We are going to have a jam session next week, and just a reminder, the week after next week, which is the 27th of June, we will not be having a jam session. Okay? So have a good week. If you have questions between now and next week that need to be answered urgently and immediately, just hop on over to help.plussys.com and submit a ticket. Otherwise, we will see you next week. See you guys.